Hey guys, it's the King and welcome back to another Clash Royale video. Today I want to show you this deck. It does use 3 legendaries. The Princess for her splash. She does a great job with support and you can drop her at the bridge. Also the new legendary card, the Graveyard, and that card is an absolute beast if used right. And the Lumberjack, I cannot believe it's taken me so long to get this card. But now that I have him, he does so much work against everything. It is just unreal how fast he is and how much damage he actually does. We're going to jump into some replays, but I just want to say in this deck there are so many different combos that you can use. You can use the Hog and the Graveyard together. You can use the Lumberjack and the Graveyard together. The Hog and the Lumberjack go extremely good together. The Baby Dragon and the Hog go well together. It's just a lot of different combos in this deck. Now the one thing I don't have is a defensive building. I also do not have Zap, Arrows, or Fireball. But what I do have is Lightning, and that comes into play big time, but you've got to be careful when you use it. You really want to use it to take the Inferno Tower down or take out some of their defensive buildings, things of that nature. You can also take out, like say, the Witch. You want to use it when you're going to get a good elixir trade for it. The best time to use it really is when they have an Inferno Tower down, you're going to throw your Hog down, and you want to try to get damage on the tower at the same time. That's a great time to use it, especially if they've already dropped some other troops. You're going to take all of that out. Your Hog can take the Inferno Tower out and still get to the tower and do some really good damage. I have thought about putting Zap in this deck only because when you do use the Graveyard and they use Skeleton Army, it decimates the Graveyard. Your Graveyard will do like 0 damage. So if you have Zap, you can zap the Skeleton Army and your Graveyard will still do a lot of work, and it will force them to have to play another card and use more elixir just to defend the Graveyard. Now, the main thing, it depends on what your opponent is using. What cards do they have? What deck are they running? This is very, very key and something you have to pay attention to if you want the Graveyard to work successfully. Now, I have had matches where I didn't even use the Graveyard. I didn't have to use the Graveyard with this deck. But if you want to use the Graveyard, you've got to make sure that you let your opponent use their Skeleton Army on something else, like say your Hog, or if they use it to back up something like the Giant or something like that. So it's better to keep the Graveyard in your rotation. In other words, hold it in your hand and play the other cards that are in your hand, and just hold the Graveyard until you have the right moment and the right time to use it. Now, let's talk about the Lightning spell. This is an excellent card, but again, you have to use it in the right way. You don't want to get caught with your pants down, so to speak. So, when do you use it? You want to use it when you're going to get a good elixir trade. Don't just, unless it's the end of the match, don't just hit a tower with it just to try to do damage on the tower alone. What you really want to do is let your opponent throw some troops down on that particular side, whichever tower, the left or the right, and you want to take the troops out and do damage to the tower. The very best thing would be if they have some huts down, the Inferno Tower, the Tombstone. You get the idea. You want to try to hit a building with it and their troops and the tower at the same time. That would be the absolute best time to use the Lightning. So let's talk about the Lumberjack. This is a card that I think is underused as far as defensively. A lot of people want to use it offensively. They want to throw it in front of their troops, going to the tower, so that he dies, he rages up and rages your troops up, and your troops can do a lot of damage to the tower, right? But he's very good defensively as well. He can take the Hog Rider out quick. When he has some support defensively with some of your other cards, like say the Witch, he can take the Golem out very fast and the Golemites out very fast and still survive and get to the other tower. He really is an overpowered mini P.E.K.K.A. Now, he doesn't have the hit points that a mini P.E.K.K.A. has, but he does extremely fast and quick and good damage like a mini P.E.K.K.A. Now, you really do want to get him to the other tower in front of your other troops, in front of your push, because it does rage them up when he dies. And he does a lot of damage when he gets to the tower as well. So, put him in front of the baby dragon, put him in front of the hog rider, put him in front of a witch. You're going to do a lot of damage if you can get them to the tower. Now, going back to what I was talking about before with the hog and the graveyard spell, you'll see here in this replay in just a minute on that left tower, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I can see right now that he does have zap and fireball, but he's going to throw his golem down at the exact same time I throw my hog down. He's going to let his elixir build. He's going to use zap on the graveyard. And zap on the graveyard is not going to destroy the whole graveyard. It might stall the graveyard a little bit, but those skeletons, it's not a skeleton army. So they're not all coming out at once. They're coming out little by little. And they're still going to do a lot of work. And you're going to see here, I'm still going to take the tower. He used the zap. But again, zap is not going to take out the entire graveyard. It might stall it a little bit, but it's not going to take it out. Guys, if you see the graveyard, do not use zap on the graveyard, okay? What you really want to do is lay down some goblins. Goblins is a great counter to the graveyard. If you are fortunate enough to have a princess, you can lay her behind the king tower, and she will totally take the graveyard out. And unless they have zap or arrows, if you use Skeleton Army will absolutely wipe the graveyard totally out. Now, this deck is 4.3 elixir. That does seem a little high, but again, you're not using the lightning all the time. You're not using the graveyard all the time. You're really mainly going to use your witch, you're going to use your hog rider, your lumberjack, and your mega minion and princess as the main part of the deck. The really big thing about this deck, guys, is the graveyard and the lightning spell are really your main two surprise cards, because really what you're trying to do is you're trying to set up for using the graveyard. Now, the lightning is really not so much of a surprise card in this particular deck, because you're going to have to use the lightning to do some damage to the tower and to try to wipe the troops out and take some of their buildings out. So they're going to know that you have lightning. But you don't want to get caught with your pants down, like I said earlier, because if they have 3 musketeers or something like that, you're going to need to use the lightning to take them out. Now, as far as substitutions in this deck, there really is no substitution for the graveyard. So if you don't have the graveyard, guys, I'm sorry, but this deck is not going to be one that you're going to be able to use until you get the graveyard. But you'll get the graveyard eventually. As far as the princess, you can substitute her for archers. You can substitute her maybe even for a fireball. The lumberjack, again, really the only way to have the same effect as what he does would be to have a mini P.E.K.K.A. and rage. But now you're giving up a card. So that's not really a substitution for him. There really is no substitution because there is no other card like him in the game. But you could use a mini P.E.K.K.A. that does do a lot of damage. The mini P.E.K.K.A. is fairly quick, and the mini P.E.K.K.A. actually has more hit points. It has more life, so to speak, than the lumberjack. And again, there is no substitution for the graveyard, but if you want to try to have the same effect, if you want to try to have a similar strategy, the only thing I can think of would be a goblin barrel. Now let's talk a little bit about the princess in this deck. She is an excellent card for 3 elixir. She does a lot. Yes, she can be taken out very easily with a log or arrows or something of that nature, but what she really does and where she really shines is in support. Her range is phenomenal. She can target opposing troops from the opposite side of the map here. So what you really want to do is you want to lay her down in such a way where she starts to go to, like, say, the left tower as you lay your hog into the right lane. Now, if you want to be aggressive with her, you can throw your witch down, throw your mega minion down, let them start to kind of go up into the lane toward their tower, and then lay her right at the bridge behind them in support, and she'll start doing damage to the tower as your other troops get there. And the mega minion is basically, like everyone says, it is a flying mini P.E.K.K.A. It doesn't have, again, it does not have the hit points or the life of a mini P.E.K.K.A, but it does damage just like a mini P.E.K.K.A. And it's extremely versatile. great on defense, great against minion hordes and minions, great against skeleton armies, hog riders. It's just a great defensive card. You can get it to the tower, and if you get it to the tower, you're going to do a lot of damage with it. But mainly you want to try to focus that particular card mainly on defense first. Now, like I said earlier in the video, one great combination is actually the baby dragon and the hog rider together. One will tank for the other, and when you get the baby dragon to their tower, he does a lot of work, and it's kind of hard to take him out unless they have, musketeer or something like that. We'll get into one last replay here, guys. I'll go ahead and talk through this one just so you can get an idea of, how the deck works. And you've been watching these replays as I've been talking, so you can see how the deck is and how the deck works and what you need to do in order to be successful with this deck. Again, we're going to start off, we're building elixir. Both people are. I don't like to go first all the time. Like to see what they lay down. He's going to lay a giant down. So I'm going to lay my witch down. You'll see here in a minute I'm going to lay my princess in the middle. I probably could have laid her a little bit farther to the left, but I wanted to make sure she was going to lock on to this giant coming. And you'll see she does a lot of work. I threw the lightning there to take his witch out, and anytime you can do that is huge, guys, because you really want to take out those supporting troops. I lay the lumberjack down. He's going to help the witch take out all of those barbs. He's going to get to the tower, and look at this. He's doing a lot of damage to the tower. He's going to rage up. I've got my mega minion down. The tower's done. We haven't even used the graveyard yet, guys. So I'm at his tower, still doing some work. He's trying to figure out what he wants to lay down now. Now he's going to lay the hut down, and that's 5 elixir for him. So I'm just going to be patient, lay the baby dragon down. This will help, take out some of these troops that are spawning from the hut, the goblin hut. He's going to lay down a barbarian hut. He's really trying to push on my right lane, and he's really trying to force me to continue to play cards to defend with over there on that right side. And honestly, at the moment, I kind of have to do that because I really, with 2 huts, a goblin hut and a barbarian hut, I really don't want them to get to the tower because they'll do a lot of damage if I don't defend this. So here comes the lightning. That's going to weaken the barb hut. He comes in again with another giant. My lumberjack, and he's going to do a lot of work to that giant. See how quickly he took him out? I've got my mega minion down. Here's the princess. She's going to do a lot of splash damage and do a lot of damage to not just the goblins, but she's going to do a lot of damage to the barbs too. So here comes a witch, and you'll see the log. What a misplaced log right in between my princess and the witch. That was a bad play by him. But here comes the lightning again to weaken the barb hut. He's got a lot of barbarians down coming at me. I'm going to throw another princess down, and my baby dragon is still doing some work. Now, like I said before, you see how I had the princess over there on the left lane, and she was doing chip damage. And you can see again, the princess on the right lane was able to shoot all the way across the map and take those minions out. Had she not done that, he could have actually taken my left tower. Good game. And guys, again, you just have to know what your opponent has. You're going to go up against all kinds of different decks, and the main thing you want to do is understand what they have, how to counter it. And with this deck, I was sitting at 8 wins and 2 losses at the time I made this video on a classic challenge, and I have used it in regular play as far as the ladder is concerned, pushing some trophies, and it works there too. So again, guys, it's a good deck. Hopefully you have the cards to where you can actually try this. Try it in a challenge. If you use it in a challenge, it doesn't matter. It's all for fun. You're not going to lose any trophies out of it. If you changed a card or two, let me know in the comments section below. Please, guys, hit that like button and subscribe. But most of all, be well.